Hello, it's March 24th, 2022, and it looks like I'll be able to go back to work soon. Probably not until next week. In terms of a big project, about a month or two, be good, get all moneyed up and all that. In the news lately, at least online, it seems our Prime Minister has taken some flack from the international politicians. I think the one man in particular is from Croatia. Frankly, I think that's rather hilarious, simply because at the end of the day, words mean very little, and Canada is too important of a nation on the world stage, even for what little it does contribute, to be worth snubbing at this point. Now is now that importance is only going to be important so long as we can actually do something with it. We can turn the potential of this nation into something that is worth having, and that has to be done from people on the ground as well as politicians. And as we all know, and as Trudeau has shown us, politicians aren't exactly, shall we say, reliable in any sense of the word. Period. They just aren't. They are not really mandated anymore to actually do their jobs properly. And instead, there is a nepotism or elitism that has been sinking in, especially in Canadian politics as of late. Uh, for anyone paying attention who are Canadian, the Liberals and the NDP are basically getting into bed together to make sure that the Liberals can continue to push issues that frankly shouldn't be issues, and frankly, between our Constitution and our Bill of Rights are issues that are already being discussed. Critical race theory is coming to Ontario, and if it comes to Ontario's education system, it will likely come to every other provinces afterwards. For those of you who don't understand, basically the Canadian education system is not a federal board. There is no standard from coast to coast except where trade applications are applicable. As a result, unless it's a red seal or a general PhD, the hard reality is that unless you've taken it at a Canadian university, your education in terms of kindergarten to grade 12 can be different, and there are different standards nationwide. This is done simply because the overall cost, sorry, the overall cost to actually implement this across our nation would be large, and the regulatory bodies necessary to maintain the education to any real high degree basically makes it so that it's just easier on Ottawa if the provinces deal with it. I'm not entirely sure about the territorial education systems. I should do more research on that because it's not like they're not important. In fact, there's quite a lot of natural resources can be exploited in the Arctic, and as long as it's done safely and environmentally into the Inuits' fashion, then I see no reason why people can't benefit from the wealth that is up there, despite how what's the term? Despite how populated it is, because it isn't very highly populated up there, but it's still important, um, especially when it comes to shipping. Because of Quebec's staunch refusal to have a synthetic oil or bitumen pipeline to run through Quebec, Alberta oil can only go west, north, or south. Most of Alberta's pipelines go south, which is why Americans seem to think that part of their domestic reserve includes us, and that's not how this works. Uh, Most of the companies up here are American, so in one respect they do have a point. But I know CNRL is owned by China, and Suncor is technically Canadian, but because of its membership on the CAPP, that doesn't necessarily mean that it doesn't do interests to other players. Canada's oil reserves are quite large, and although we don't actually store a lot of it because we don't need to at the moment, the hard reality is that the tank farms on the refineries at Refinery Row in Edmonton alone can sustain the province, if not most of the nation, for a decent length of time before it finally runs out, which doesn't look like it's going to happen anytime soon. And Alberta's not the only place. The tar sands is the shallowest there, but that's not where all of it is. You also have a huge deposit in the territories and Northwest Territories and in Saskatchewan. Saskatchewan, I think, is exploiting it, and I think the Northwest Territories are looking into it if they haven't done it already. And they have seen the effects of this. I have worked on these refineries as part of my job, which brings me to my next kind of ramble here. With everything supposedly lighting up, and looks like I'll be having work soon for this next shutdown, as it's known, I have to bring up labor and my gripe and the reason for this video. In order to be work ready, I have to have certifications that must be completed. Confined space safety tickets, confined space, fall arrest, AWP, mask fit testing, that kind of stuff. All of this is necessary to ensure not only my safety, but the safety of others and my competence when it comes to working with this equipment on the job. It's why it has to be done. Now, I know people tend to get rather vitriol when I mention unions, but I am a member of one. I'm part of a UA local in Edmonton of the Pipe Fitters Union, UA Local 488. And say what you want about unions, they do serve a important purpose, even if a lot of people who are in the union kind of forgot what that purpose is. And I say that because that's exactly what's happened in my case. I have been delayed to go to the job that I had applied for and got accepted to through the union hall because, simply put, the one fit test that I have wasn't the one they wanted because the company wanted a very specific type of mask to be used because that's what they provide, and I didn't do it. Now, that's on me. I should have known, but the fact that I wasn't informed when I pulled the job slip, as it's known, and the fact that when I went to get my fit test done, I was told I didn't need it by the company that was doing the fit test, and from the company I was subcontracting on. As you can imagine, I thought it was green light, good to go. I then go to the orientation only to find out that I'm basically not allowed to do the orientation because I don't have that test done. Now again, technically that's on me, but I can't help but wonder, at one point we used to do these tests on site. Fit tests can be completed in about 5 to 8 minutes. They don't take very long. Another aspect of this that used to happen is my union hall used to provide training for this to make sure that everyone was work ready. It used to provide the courses that I just described, full arrest and things like that. And although they do provide some of them still, they don't provide them all. And to get fit testing done, it can take a while to book in an appointment if they do it at all, because it's based on whether or not they have a technician that can come in to do the fit test. And what this basically means is that my union dues, and this is where my gripe comes in, my union dues, the salary that I pay my union hall, went to an education program in a building, in a training center. And at the end of the day, the only thing it actually provided me of any use was standard first aid and a draftsman's course. And that's it. That's all it did. It hasn't provided anything else. This building costs, if you include the training center, just under $10 million to build. And there's no money owing on it. We paid it in full. Yet its overall purpose doesn't serve, at least, and I found out that it's probably higher than that, but of the 11,000 members, it doesn't serve maybe a quarter of them. Now that doesn't sound like it's all that like that matters, but if a quarter of 11,000 people, 25% of 11,000 people, are not getting the training that they need to fast track the process as fast as they can in order to make sure that they're work ready and ready to go, what you're effectively doing is hamstringing your workforce pool. And because companies don't do it anymore, they don't pay for it either. We have to pay for it out of pocket. Another gripe, if I'm paying for a facility that's supposed to offer the training, why do I have to pay for the course when I'm already paying for it through my union hall? But anyway, at the end of the day, what it turns into is not everyone uses the same place to go get their test done, because this can be done in a lot of different places all over the province, and depending where you live depends on how you can do it. And yet at the end of the day, a change in a number or a company that the subcontractor or the guy you're working for doesn't recognize, and all of a sudden they go, well, this isn't good enough. And if it's not good enough and it's their sandbox, you're the one left holding the bag and the bill. Union or non-union, the hard reality is that that's just the way it is, and it shouldn't be this way. Unions are put in place to protect labor's rights and wages, and if you actually pay attention, and I know most people don't because of the reputation unions have garnered thanks to mafias and various other groups, but if you actually pay attention to the way they are supposed to be, and you read their constitution, which I know most people don't, what you end up finding, and I know I've been reading it recently because I've been getting frustrated with all this, is what I've been finding is that my union hall isn't actually doing what it's supposed to do in terms of ensuring its guarantees to its workers. Now I can go into a topic that the hours long over this, over the politics of the union, and my union in particular, how stupid it is, some of the terrible mistakes it's made in the past, and terrible mistakes it's made in the future, that's going to be making in the future. But at the end of the day, it just helps with wage control. And you might say, well, why is that important? Or, go screw yourself, the market will. Well, believe it or not, if companies could, they would charge you nothing. You would work for free. You would work for the company man, like company store, get a token, and that's all you would get, and you can only go to the company store to spend it. In fact, there are real world examples even today of this happening still. Unions prevent this by organizing the labor. That's the fundamental reason for them. There's a lot of other reasons, and people can get political if they want, but brass tacks, why it's formed, is basically the workers got together and said, screw you, we don't want this. We don't want to be treated this way. Why is this important? Well, most of the tradesmen that form unions are actually essential to how your society runs. You ain't going to get your power running, you ain't going to get your heating running, you ain't going to get a lot of other things going without them. Now, yes, they're probably not the guy that comes to your door. He's probably married, he's probably independent, and he's probably small business. And you know what? Hooray for him. If they can make a living running a plumbing truck, all for it, because then you don't have to deal with the bullshit politics that I have to deal with when I go on to these bigger job sites. But when you're working at sites that basically hire thousands of people and they want a job done in 2 months that would normally take 5 years otherwise, or that's an exaggeration, it's probably closer to a year otherwise, you start to really understand just how the machine of skilled labor works and why a union all of a sudden becomes important, if the union is potent enough to actually stand up for what it's supposed to. My hall doesn't do that. And like I said, that's a rant that I can go on and on and on for. At the end of the day, skilled labor, no matter its form, whether it be merit, clack, independent, or union, it all serves the same purpose. It all keeps society going. And we're all here to make a buck at the end of the day. We're all here to provide food for our families, no matter which organization we use, no matter what we trust, and everyone has their own reasons. I prefer UA only because their pension is stable and is constantly going up because people know how to invest in it. But anyway, that's all I wanted to gripe for today. See you later. See you next one.